Let's go. We just won that. Let's go. Taking down Thanos. Taking down Thanos. Discard, baby. Discard is back. Let's go. Hello, hello, hello. TM24 here, and we are back with some more Marvel Snap content. Now today, we're taking it back to a deck that used to thrive, was dead for a while, and now is back. And of course, we're talking about Modok Discard here. So, we're taking a look at the deck here. We've got Sunspot, Morbius, Wolverine, Swarm, Colin Wing, Moon Knight, Lady Sif, Dracula, Shang-Chi, Modok, of course, Apocalypse, and America Chavez. So, let's talk about these cards a little bit. Sunspot's great to get him down early. There are a few times where it feels like you're better off passing than anything else. So being able to get Sunspot down on one feels amazing. Your 2-drops, right? You've got 4 of them, but only 2 of them you're actually interested in playing before turn 6, I would even say. So Morbius, if you can get Morbius down on 2, you are sitting pretty. It feels really, really good. Additionally, Colleen Wing, if you can get her down and maybe get your Wolverine or discard a Swarm so that you've got copies of that ready to go, you're feeling really, really happy. Wolverine and Swarm, though, you're pretty much never going to play those out of hand. Ideally, Colleen Wing hits it, like in this case, as you're seeing with Wolverine, and you get Wolverine out there, kind of for free, right? If it hits Swarm, you get copies. You will play those Swarms on turn 6. Make sure you keep enough board space in order to get them all down, because you don't want it hitting your Dracula, which we'll talk about in a second. Next up, we've got a couple of 3-drops here. We've got Moon Knight and Lady Sif. So, Lady Sif, pretty crucial. You want her so that you can discard your Apocalypse and start buffing him up, getting him nice and strong for either Dracula or even just to play him on turn 6. Now, Moon Knight, this is the spot that I would call kind of like a flex spot. I've seen some people go with Swordmaster, some go with, Invisible Woman here, but I like Moon Knight to kind of disrupt their hand if possible. Maybe we can discard something important. I will say he is probably the least crucial piece of this deck and the one that you're going to play, the least. So, your flex spot doesn't have to be Moon Knight. You could definitely swap him out for something else. Dracula. We've already talked about Dracula a little bit. You love to get him down, especially if you got Apocalypse in hand. You can see here, we snap, throw him down, and our hand is ready to be discarded. And, honestly, this is pretty much one of the perfect setups here you can get in this game. But, yeah, if you can get Dracula down, you feel really, really good about the game. Shang-Chi, he's there to kind of answer some of your opponent's big plays. Shang-Chi is almost always played on 4, unless you don't have a good play on 6, or maybe you don't have Apocalypse, or you're not able to discard with Modok. Shang-Chi's almost always played on 4 if you can. And he's only played, if maybe you don't have Dracula to play, or there is something big out there to destroy. I think in one of these games we took out a monster to kind of give ourselves a head start in that lane. So again, one of the less crucial pieces, but definitely nice to have and can help you win a lane. Next up is Modok, baby, and we all know what he does. He's discarding your hand. He's buffing up those Apocalypses, giving you multiple copies of Swarm, getting Wolverine out there. Modok. Modok is huge. He definitely helps make this deck go, but you don't necessarily need to hit him to win. He just, on the times you do hit him, it feels like you're going to win for sure. Apocalypse, you love to discard him as many times as you can to get those buffs and really get him powered up for your Dracula, or even just a play on turn 6. Chavez is there to give you that option. Whether you want to play your Apocalypse or you want to play your Chavez, you'll have options there because you're always going to draw her on 6. Maybe you don't need as much power on your Dracula, so you're fine with Chavez, with him hitting Chavez, and then you can play that powered up Apocalypse. So Chavez is really nice in this deck as well. Now, let's talk about this deck a little bit. One thing that's super, super nice about this deck is it feels really, really consistent. Most of the time, you have a solid play on 2. You have a decent play on 4. Depending on, your discards here, you just always seem to have a nice play and a good way to win. As long as you're playing your cards right, going after the right locations, you feel like you've got a shot in every single game. And this is a perfect example here, where you can see we're battling for the Nexus here. Going to be a super, super important location. That is probably going to determine who wins this match. You can see we've got Modok. We've got Apocalypse ready to come down. So we're slamming Modok, and we are going for that Nexus. Now, important thing about the Nexus is they could definitely, completely delete our game plan, so we don't want to go all in on it. And you can see here, we're thinking it through. We know that we've probably won the Nexus. Dracula is going to pull something huge, Apocalypse or Chavez. So we feel safe just tossing Chavez into the sewer system, knowing that if they change the Nexus, at least we will have a shot in another location, and we'll probably win it because they've got a lone Ant-Man there. They aren't going to commit as many resources. Additionally, by avoiding playing into the Nexus, we don't power up their mojo either, and we don't get Shang-Chi'd. So, we played that one as well as you could have played. Dracula discarded our Apocalypse, and we get a huge dub there. But yeah, this deck is just, it's fun. It feels super consistent. You have answers. You get, essentially free power out there through the use of, getting those swarms and getting your Wolverine out there without actually having to play him. It just feels like a really, really good deck to play. And right now, it seems to be able to stand up to pretty much anything. You saw just now, we went against an ongoing deck. We played against a Galactus deck. Right now, we're playing against, Thanos and all of his reality stones. And it always feels like you have a shot. Definitely, picking the right locations and, in this case, getting a little bit lucky definitely helps. But it just feels like a really, really good deck right now. So definitely one I think y'all should give a shot. This is actually a super, super satisfying game here. You can see we got lucky. We picked up Dracula on 4, so we feel really good about the killing all of a sudden. But with Starlight Citadel coming down, it's going to swap everything. So we had a little bit of a misplay there, but it didn't completely ruin our chances of actually winning the game, which is huge. Because even if you make a mistake, because of the power level of some of these cards, Dracula, Apocalypse when he's powered up, getting free swarms, you can definitely come back. We should have been spreading our power here a little bit more evenly. Yes, it would have been hard for us to kind of do it the way he is, but you can see here, he's got a couple cards in the kiln and we've got no way of answering. Doesn't mean we've lost this one at all yet. We still have a shot. You can see I'm pointing to the kiln. I know that he's won that, and we've got to figure out a way to win the other locations. Modok's going to have to come down regardless. We're going to get a couple of free swarms. We've got an Apocalypse ready to go as well. And it's just all about a matter of playing in the right spots, I guess you would say. Making sure you're going after... it's hard to compete on 3 locations with this deck. If you get some free swarms, okay, maybe. But it's better to kind of go for 2 and let that run. Here we got a little bit lucky. They went ahead and Professor X. That was going to give us Monster Metropolis without us having to worry too much about it. So we can just drop the swarms and know that we're going to add either 9 or 16 with Dracula. And we're adding 15 to a location that we're already heading. It's going to be really tough for him to compete. But I'll walk you through this next game and kind of some thought process that I had while we were playing. So we see the Isle of Silence, and we know that is not going to be a good spot for Morbius. Probably a good spot for Dracula, depending on how this plays out. Project Pegasus comes out, and we know we can get both Dracula and Morbius down now. You can see we're going to go ahead and toss Dracula there and just play Morbius kind of out of the way. A little bit risky playing into those locations that haven't been revealed yet, but we go ahead and snap that and we're ready to go. They stormed the Isle of Silence, which was huge for us because we've already got Dracula down. Most of the times, he is just going to be enough to win that location. Dracula is so powerful. And then we see Quantum Tunnel, and we know that, you know, that's not something that you're going to want to mess with this deck in particular, just because you don't want Modok coming out and discarding your hand too early. You don't want to pull your Apocalypse, because then you lose some of that value. We feel fine tossing a Moon Knight here because we got a 2 in 3 shot of hitting a card that we want to discard. So we do, and we are lucky. We hit Wolverine, and he even hits the flooding, so we know we've won the flooding. We don't even need to add power there if we don't want to. We pick up Colleen Wing, and we couldn't be happier because we know we're discarding Swarm. And if we want to go all in on the tunnel on the on the next turn or the last turn, we know that we can. So we get our Colleen Wing down. We've got our free copies of Swarm, and we are ready to go. We're going to try and hold our Shang-Chi for the Quantum Tunnel on turn 6 here. We've got Sunspot, which we can feel kind of safe just playing and then passing. We know we're going to draw Chavez on the next turn. Now we've got a decision to make. We could either Shang-Chi in Project Pegasus, or we could just Shang-Chi the Quantum Tunnel and know that we're probably in a good spot there. We are actually going to get Chavez on our Dracula as long as Swarms don't pull anything that's going to discard it. Modok, for instance, they go with Zola and they get lucky. They hit that Devil Dino, but we know we've won the Quantum Tunnel because we have Shang-Chi. And they just don't have the power in, you know, Project Pegasus to do anything. Maybe we should have split up our Swarms a little bit, but ultimately we ended up making the play that won us the game, so we cannot complain. We hit both Lady Sif and Modok, which got rid of our Chavez, but we end up getting the win anyway. So feels really, really good. Like I said, super consistent, super strong right now too. You know, like I was saying, some of these cards just feel great. We get a guy that snaps on turn 1, and you know, we're ready to go. We feel fine with that. You know, we got no problem kind of standing up and fighting and see what he's got. So we get our Sunspot down, and they get a Mind Stone down. So we know, hey, Thanos is coming. We've got the stones to worry about, but we aren't too worried. Onslaught Citadel is great. If we could get Morbius onto it, he's the only real card that we could have played there. Kind of while we're talking about that, you know, ongoing effects being doubled, Moon Knight could also be taken out for something like a Mystique to copy your Morbius. That would be huge. So that's another option there. You know, I prefer to go with Moon Knight just for a little bit of disruption, but, you know, you do have options with that kind of flex spot. Like I said, Swordmaster is a good spot there. I've seen Mystique. I like Moon Knight, even though it doesn't offer you the most. And like I said, most of the time that spot, you know, I'm not playing Moon Knight that often, so maybe that means I should have taken him out and tried something like a Mystique or a Swordmaster. You know, Swordmaster's nice. A 3/6, that's really nice power to get down. Mystique copying up on, you know, Morbius feels great. I don't like having dead cards in my hand, and if I can't copy, you know, Morbius, Mystique feels a little bit bad. Moon Knight at least is kind of disruption as well, so that's why I ended up going with that. But you know, like I said, you can go a ton of different ways with this deck, at least with that spot. I think the core of it is very strong. The core being, you know, Morbius, Wolverine, Swarm, Colleen Wing, Dracula, Modok, Apocalypse, and definitely Chavez. Lady Sif, you could maybe go without, but she's nice to kind of get that discard onto Apocalypse. I've seen people not use Shang-Chi, but I love having answers, so that's why I keep him in my deck. Sunspot, we talked about. Sunspot is the best one-drop in the game, so definitely good to keep. But yeah, this deck is just strong, and you can see here we're standing up to a Thanos deck that has all of its stones. You know, you can see it's played 5 stones already. It's turn 5. We're thinking through our play really hard here because we need to guarantee that Dracula hits Chavez that we're drawing on 6. Otherwise, we won't necessarily win the Space Throne. So our only real option here is to actually go Lady Sif and Swarm. The one thing we don't want to do is, you know, we didn't really want to fill up the big house, but, you know, we're going to anyway, just to put a little bit more pressure on them in case they play something into the Citadel. And they did. We get a nice discard here in the Moon Knight being discarded instead of our Shang-Chi, which will allow us to play Shang-Chi onto the Citadel on 6, meaning our Dracula is definitely going to be hit by Chavez, so we should win that one. It all depends on what they play into the Citadel. I'm hoping that they play like a Devil Dino or something like that into the Citadel. They see Onslaught, and for a minute, I think that I've lost the game. But because of the buffs that Blue Marvel provided and the location, puts it in Shang-Chi range, and we are going to go ahead and pick up that game. Super satisfying. We did get a bit lucky, but it felt really, really good. So definitely a fun game right there. So just a couple final quick words on this deck. Like I said, it feels really, really consistent. You feel like you've always got a shot in the game, regardless of what deck you're going up against. And it's pretty fun being able to discard your whole hand, get some free swarms, free Wolverine, and still have huge power in the form of Apocalypse and Chavez. So definitely one that seems to be on the rise, one that very well may be a good deck to start as the season starts. The new season starts here tomorrow, I believe. But yeah, give this one a shot. It feels really, really strong. And if you've hung around till now, thank you. Please go ahead and subscribe and like the video, as it does help me out. But until next time, remember, have some fun.